Welcome everyone to another episode of Fungi Finders, and today we called in some guests. We're not looking for mushrooms in the wild, but we brought some medicinal mushrooms for you to look at. This episode will be all about well-known medicinal mushrooms, but also about other mushrooms that you might not have thought would be having some medicinal properties to them, which lots of mushrooms do. As you may know, humankind have been using mushrooms for a very long time, either in their diet or as a medicinal things that humans would take or use for different kinds of illnesses that they might have. Back in old Egypt, people would carve the mushrooms actually on the hieroglyphs. There are some examples of that where the statue is holding a basket of mushrooms. We also found some paintings in Siberia that are picturing humans as mushrooms or with the mushrooms on the top of their heads. And also in southeastern Algeria, there's a very famous painting on a cave that shows a human or shaman covered in mushrooms. So mushrooms have been with people, with humans for thousands of years, and there's a long history of medicinal use of mushrooms in Asian countries, also in Northern European countries, I would say. And so today we're going to talk about some of those mushrooms that have been used for thousands of years. Mushrooms have special properties that still have to be studied and more studied by current medicine, obviously, but I know that lots of people are interested in learning about what's the medicinal value of different mushrooms that you might find either in the woods or right now also in the stores. There is such a thing as mushroom coffee, mushroom teas, and all kinds of supplements that some people might be looking at to help them support their immune system. So we'll talk about those today. There's a great book that I recently got called Fungal Pharmacy, which includes not just a few medicinal mushrooms, but lots of the ones that you also find in store regularly, like oyster mushrooms and other stuff. So there's much more to discover aside from these particular medicinal mushrooms we'll talk about today. I picked this mushroom called birch polypore because this is one of the mushrooms that have been found on a frozen man in Alps called Utsi. Utsi, somewhere in Alps in between Austria and France and Italy, I believe. And this really shows us how the humans have been connected with the mushrooms for a very long time. So this mushroom called birch polypore only grows on birch trees, and you might have seen it when you go out into the woods or on some decaying birch trees, also live trees, but it has to be growing only on the birch trees, as I said. It kind of grows in the form of a shelf. They can get quite big, the size of a plate. When they're fresh, they're very firm, but also kind of squishy. I know that the indigenous tribes would use the birch polypore as an antiseptic covering, so you can slice it up when it's fresh and maybe put it on your wound. But I also know that the birch polypore is well known for helping treat parasites that you might have in your GI tract. And this is also probably the reason why the Iceman, Utsi, had it on him. The picture you see on a screen with the mushroom kind of strung on a piece of leather was the actual mushroom that they found on this frozen Iceman in the Alps. He had it around his neck, and a piece of a mushroom was also found in his GI tract. And so they think he tried to treat his parasites that he indeed had. It was proved that he had the parasitic, like a tapeworm inside of him. So he might have been using the mushroom to treat that, maybe some pain that he had. The other mushroom that is maybe not medicinal, I'm not sure if it has many medicinal properties, it's called tinder polypore. That was the other mushroom that was found on him, and that one is usually used by indigenous tribes. It's used as kind of a lighter that you would set on fire, and the fire would be smoldering on it, so you can take it from the camp to camp and transport the fire. So it's thought that he might have used it for the same properties. Birch polypore, some people also use it to make syrup. I saw a recipe for a dessert that included birch polypore syrup. I'm not sure how tasty it is. If you put enough sugar in it, maybe it is. The recipe that I saw was for raspberry ice cream, and then they used the birch polypore syrup on it. When you taste this mushroom when it's fresh, you should only be tasting fresh mushrooms. If you taste it in the wild when it's raw, it has kind of a sour flavor and a little bit maybe bitter note. So it just has very acidic taste when it's raw and fresh. Here is a mushroom that is really, I think, well known to many people, and we have a special appearance. This is turkey tail mushroom, or Trametes versicolor, growing on a log. The log was supplied by my friend Donna from Ipswich. I picked it up yesterday by the side of her house. She has a big stack of wood, and I saw the turkey tail growing right on it. It's very beautiful. This is all fresh. It has a tiny little velvety fuzzy hair, and you can see on the top the zonate pattern. And all the turkey tails will have the zonate pattern kind of on top. It grows always on a wood. The zonate pattern can be many colors. The colors can vary from kind of a brown cinnamon color all the way to the grayish black and sometimes even blue. If you've seen some pictures of turkey tail online, they might have been actually blue. I think the color has something to do with the temperature or maybe the type of a tree that the turkey tail is actually growing on. And lots of people are trying to find this mushroom in the wild, and they sometimes confuse it with other lookalikes. But turkey tail always has white underside and tiny circular pores, and the spores are on the underside. Turkey tail is supposed to be great for the immune support. I know lots of people that take supplements or they drink a tea after dehydration, especially if they went for the chemotherapy. Maybe they would try to boost up their immune system with the turkey tail kind of tincture or something like that. Here I want to show you how you can ID the turkey tail, the real turkey tail, from some other ones that you might see in the woods. We have the underside of a turkey tail that should be always white and should have a little tiny circular pores. And the lookalikes will have sometimes gills, and the other lookalike underside will have a tiny little purple teeth. Here we see the most common lookalikes for the turkey tail. We have a false turkey tail, which also has a zonate pattern, if you see on a screen. They all kind of have that, just like a different variations of it, right? But you can see how someone might confuse these for kind of a similar turkey tail mushroom. The false turkey tail underside is just rubbery. There's not much texture to it. The gill polypore kind of looks like a turkey tail, but if you flip it over, it's not going to have the white underside ever. It's going to have the gills. And the last picture is the violet or purple tooth polypore, and that's the one, when you turn it over, you're going to see a purple edge and purple teeth on this one. So these are very often mistaken for a turkey tail from far away. But once you get close up and you pick it up and you turn it over, you're going to see if you have a turkey tail or if you don't. So I think this is very helpful for lots of people. I will talk about another great and very popular medicinal mushroom, reishi or Ganoderma species. I believe, especially in China, this mushroom is added regularly into their pharmacy, where you get special mix prescribed by a doctor. And these ones are called reishi or Ganoderma species. There's many different types. The one that you see very commonly in North America or even in Asia is the Ganoderma tsugai, which grows on hemlock trees. They're polypores. They grow in a shelf-like formation on the tree. You can see the white edge, which means it's freshly still growing. And they can get quite big. And the polypores will stay on the tree for a long time. I think I have mentioned that many times. They will stay on the tree for a very long time unless something breaks it off. Reishi, it should be collected only when it's fresh. People add it to the mushroom coffee. Some people make a tincture out of these, and it's supposed to help the immune system in the body. And you can find it regularly all over North Shore, I would say. Here we have a picture of the really big specimen of Ganoderma tsugai. As you can see, my hand is covering it up a little bit, and you can see the underside also of the reishi. When it's fresh and growing, it's pure white, and you should see the white edge on it. And the texture is just kind of a spongy. And I know it doesn't look like there is spores inside of there, but there are definitely spores being released over a longer period of time. I read that in China long ago, back in thousands of years ago probably, the reishi was very, very valued, and it was actually forbidden to the for common people. So only probably the people that were a part of the dynasty could get access to it, and it was very valuable. Here we have one of the mushrooms that lots of people might have heard about. It's called chaga. That's the common name. This one came from my great friend Isabella from the Boston Mycological Club, and it's beautiful because you can really see the inside structure. Here you can see what the chaga looks like on the outside of the tree. If you have it there, it kind of looks like a burl or like a piece of a resin, but when you manage to get it off the tree, which is quite hard, you should see the inside being the kind of a golden brownish color, and you can see the strands of most likely mycelium in there. So this one is very sought after by many people. I know some people make the chaga into the teas, and also, again, it's been added to the mushroom teas and mushroom coffee and all kinds of medicinal products, or kind of supplements, I should say. So this one should be harvested very carefully, and usually people just grind it up and make a tea out of it. Lots of people want to really find it in the wild. The chaga, just like the birch polypore, will only grow on the birch trees. So if you see a tree, a maple tree or some other tree that might have something that might look like a chaga on it, it's not a chaga, because that one only grows on the birch trees, as I said. You only need a little bit of this, and it probably lasts a long time. Chaga is probably been used for thousands of years by different cultures. I had to include a lion's mane in this lineup of the medicinal mushrooms. We do not have it here. It's best to find fresh. Nowadays, you can either find the lion's mane mushrooms, fungus, either in the wild if you're very lucky. It's a little tricky to find it. It does like to grow in kind of a colder months of the year. It always grows out of the wood. It kind of looks like a coral. There's many types of lion's mane. They're all called Hericium or Hericium species. Some of them look like a pom-pom. Some of them look more like a coral. They should be harvested when they're pure white. But nowadays, you can get this mushroom also in kind of a growing blocks that you might get from some mushroom farm or somewhere. But I know there have been studies about the lion's mane that it's supposed to help with the brain function. So people with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and kind of neurological maybe issues that they might have that comes with the age or even not with the age. There have been lots of studies done in Japan and also I believe in England and now in the United States that lion's mane is supposed to help with the kind of the cognitive and the brain functioning. You can again get the tincture, you can get a powder, or you can consume it fresh. It's delicious. It tastes like a crab meat, which lots of people don't believe, but it's super delicious, and I guess it's very beneficial to you as well. So before we sign out today with our talk about common medicinal mushrooms, I want to of course, make sure that you're aware that we're not replacing any doctor's advice or anything like that, right? You should always check with your PCP, with whatever medical provider you have, if you're starting any regimen. I do want to mention there's lots of other medicinal mushrooms, even the regular mushrooms in the stores that might be very beneficial to you, but you should check with your doctor, obviously. And also, some mushrooms tend to build up in the system, so if you would be taking or consuming the same type of a mushroom for a very long time, you might develop allergies to it. And that also goes with the consuming of different types of mushrooms. Like the chicken of the woods very easily builds up in some people's systems, and after a while they develop allergic reaction to it, kind of like when you have allergic reaction to other foods, right? So even the medicinal mushrooms can build up in your system. So that's why there have been so many studies, and you should be careful how much medicinal mushrooms you're taking, right? And what do you decide to take and for how long you are taking it. So if you want to discover more about medicinal mushrooms, there's lots of resources out there. There's great books about medicinal mushrooms. Lots of people, as I said, have supplements, but you can look at the books, talk to your provider or doctor if you need some alternative medicine that you want to try for anything. If you want to contact us with any ID questions, if you want to learn about other types of medicinal mushrooms, that you could discover or you can learn about, feel free to reach out to us. You can send us your pictures, or if you have any requests for eating mushrooms, you can email them to the ICAM or to myself. So next time, I'll be looking forward to seeing you again. We'll probably go out and discover some local trails and maybe some fall mushrooms. So have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to see you next time on Fungi Finders.